Hey everybody! This evening I was going to show you how to make a really easy bread recipe. I adapted this from a recipe I found online on Food 52 by Carrie Nershai, and she calls it her no-knead sandwich bread, and it's really simple. I am a big fan of artisan breads. And artisan bread is not the easiest thing to make, but this is super easy and it has the same chewy texture and crust as artisan bread. So this recipe makes 2 loaves, and her recipe calls for 3 1/4 cups of bread flour and 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. And I kind of adapted it and did half whole wheat flour, and I mill up, this is Wheat Montana's hard red wheat, and it's pretty high in gluten, so I'm going to substitute the bread flour with this whole wheat flour, and then I'm going to put the all-purpose flour for the other 3 1/4 cups. So what we do first is we measure the dry ingredients. So I'm going to measure the flour, so 3 1/4 cups all-purpose flour. I have never made a bread that was this easy to make before. And then the next thing we're going to put is 1 1/2 tablespoons of salt. She calls for kosher salt, but I like to use sea salt. And then 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, and I like to use Red Star yeast. And that's it. We're just going to mix it together. Make sure we get it all mixed up really well. We'll just make a well. And the recipe calls for 3 cups of water. I just use tap temperature. This recipe, you're not supposed to have to knead it, so you don't really have to get it to the point of kneading, but you want to have enough water that you hydrate all the flour. It's kind of starting to look a little dry. I'm going to have to add a little more water. You want all of it to look about like that, so moist. And it's just about right. Got a little bit left here I think I put close to 4 cups. And it's going to vary, the amount of water you use is going to vary depending on your flour. That's it. That was easy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cover this with either a damp dish towel or saran wrap, and you let it proof out at room temperature for 5 hours. And then after it's proofed for 5 hours, you can either form it into 2 loaves and bake it, or this dough will keep in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. So I'm going to put it in the fridge. I think I'm going to leave it out overnight, and then I'm going to put it in the fridge covered with saran wrap. You want to cover it with something that's going to keep the moisture in. And I'm going to leave it in there for a couple days, and then we will come back and see the end process. We're back to show you the second phase of our bread making recipe. So I proofed the dough, and then it's been in the fridge for the last couple of days. So now I'm ready to take it out, form it into 2 loaves. This is enough for 2 loaves. And then we're going to let it rise for an hour, and then I'm going to bake it at 450 for approximately 30 minutes. Depends on how dark of a crust you like. And then we'll show you the end product. But right now, I'm going to take some flour, because this is pretty sticky. So I'm going to put some flour down before I pour it out. And you can see the yeast activity. It's really strong smelling. You can smell it. You can't smell it, but I can smell it. It's kind of sticky, so I'm going to kind of coat it in flour before I divide it into 2 loaves. That's about right. I'm going to set one back in there while I do this one. You just want to have plenty of flour down. And this is no knead bread, so you don't really have to knead it. You're just forming it into a loaf. And that's it. Then I'm going to put it in my greased bread pan. And the dough is still really cold from being refrigerated. So I'm going to let it rise just in a slightly warm place for about an hour, and then I'll bake it. Hey, we're back. I baked the bread at 450 for about half an hour. I let it rise for about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour. Now it's ready. This is what it looks like. Grab it out of the pan. You don't have to let it bake quite that long if you don't want it that dark. I hope this recipe has been helpful. It's a really easy recipe. And let me know in the comments below if you try it and if you have any suggestions. Until next time, this has been Amanda for Christian Country Living, reminding you to pray, plan, and prepare. See you next time.
What, you were expecting bloopers here? Come on, guys, my wife's perfect.